Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan, and this is our Week 7 preview.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Rob has been a little under the weather lately. He hasn't been able to make our podcast, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll be back later this week or next week to do our special teams discussion episode. For now, let's get into the Week 7 preview, starting off with Thursday Night Football.
Broncos at Browns.
D'Ernest Johnson. Here's an interesting one. With OBJ out and Jarvis Landry maybe still a little banged up as he returns to the field tonight, Nick Chubb out, Kareem Hunt out, we're going to see D'Ernest Johnson in the backfield taking carries. Could be splitting with Demetric Felton, but I'm pretty sure that you're probably going to see this guy handle the bulk of the workload. Hasn't done much up until now from this season. Only 3 attempts for a total of 11 yards. So we're going to have to see what he's made of, but this is a coin toss that I think that you would win. Play D'Ernest Johnson in this matchup.
Bengals at Ravens.
Going with T. Higgins here. Jamar Chase has obviously been on an absolute tear. I think he should be Rookie of the Year. But T. Higgins has been an afterthought after a great season last year when he was a rookie. I think that coming off those touchdown performances in Week 1 and Week 2 and having that little injury and not really having much action the last couple of weeks against Detroit and Green Bay, T. Higgins is going to be back in action here. This is going to be a great game against the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to heavily cover Jamar Chase. They're going to be looking to the backfield where Joe Mixon is probably going to play. We're going to see some running back problems as the injury reports come out right before the game. But T. Higgins, I think, is going to be kind of under the radar. Uzoma's been real hot, so they're going to be tight on him in coverage. And Higgins is probably going to be another breakout play here. Get Higgins back into your lineups as a wide receiver 2 this week.
Washington football team at Packers.
I'm going to say J.D. McKissic in this one. There's always some low-hanging fruit, and guys are always just going to start, and they're always going to produce. We know Devontae Adams is a no-brainer. Even though Aaron Jones is kind of underperforming like I predicted at the beginning of the season, I still think that he's going to do his thing. And, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But when you look at Washington football team right now, they don't have a whole lot of options. Heineke's been struggling. They're going up against a pretty competent defense. The Packers always play Washington very hard. Antonio Gibson did return to practice, but I think he looked a little flat-footed, almost tripped over some of the equipment when he was doing some of his hurdle exercises. J.D. McKissic is probably going to handle the bulk of the workload, whether or not Gibson is back. Look to McKissic to be a high-ceiling PPR play this week. Get him into your lineups.
Falcons at Dolphins.
Listen, Tua is Tua, but this is the Falcons we're talking about. I've seen some of the Yahoo writers saying that Tua is absolutely not supposed to be on people's fantasy radars for this week. The Falcons have been absolutely abysmal against the pass, and I'm talking against bad teams. I don't care what they do on offense. I don't care if they beat the Dolphins. None of that's relevant right now. Devontae Parker is coming back. Whether or not he's going to be at full health or an injury risk during the game, it doesn't matter. Gesicki's been obviously a very competent target this entire time at tight end. Tua is probably going to pick apart this Falcons secondary. I really don't see anybody on the Falcons I'm too excited about as a huge fantasy play in this game. The Miami Dolphins defense is not like they were last year, but they're still not terrible. Cordarrelle Patterson, maybe he has a big game again, but I'm just really thinking that Tua is the one that I kind of consider the sleeper fantasy breakout. So if everyone really believes that Tua can't get the job done, I'm telling you, get Tua in your lineups as your QB1 for this week, especially with all the bye weeks going on. If you have Josh Allen and Tua as your backup, you're in a golden opportunity right now. Just go ahead and play him.
Jets at Patriots.
I think Kendrick Bourne is actually going to have another big game here. Guys, he hasn't been a real big name this season. Mac Jones has been inconsistent and struggling at times, but Kendrick Bourne did put up 6 receptions for 96 yards and a TD against the Saints in Week 3. This last week, yes, only 2 targets, 1 catch, 75 yards and a TD from Mac Jones. He's going to burn the Jets, I think, this time. They're starting to realize there's not a whole lot of targets on the Patriots, not a whole lot of weapons for them to use. Kendrick Bourne can be that weapon. I think they're going to start to get their heads out of their butts. You're going to see more and more targets, kind of like they did in Week 3 when he got 8. Kendrick Bourne can be a very, very sneaky flex play, especially if in your some DFS leagues and you got to pay low for this guy. Get him now while you can. This is going to be a good play.
Panthers at Giants.
I'm slightly unsure about this one, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's going to be Sterling Shepard. He is questionable. Hamstring problem right now. Limited participant in practice today, Thursday. But last week, when he returned to action, 14 targets. Only 76 yards, no touchdown. but it's the target share that really gets me here, and that's what I love about fantasy football. Sometimes you just have to go after the guy who's being offered the ball the most. We know Saquon Barkley's probably not returning. Devontae Booker doesn't seem like a hot option. I mean, we know who Devontae Booker is. Any of you guys who picked him up last week, you're just playing with smoke and mirrors there. You don't really know what he's going to do because he's never been talented enough to be the RB1 on our roster. We've seen him back on the Broncos and all that stuff. Sterling Shepard, however, when he's on the field, is generally the number one target on the Giants. So Sterling Shepard, I think, could have a good performance against Carolina where there really is nobody to target.
Chiefs at Titans.
McCole Hardman. I know it's really easy to say guys like Tyreek Hill or Kelsey or Mahomes. Obviously, 90% of the time they're going to have a good game. It's these kind of plays that really matter in fantasy, especially at this part of the season. What did we just talk about last time? Target share. McCole Hardman could be very sneaky here up against the Titans, who just had a great showing against the Bills, but gave up 31 points. 5 targets against Washington week 6, 12 targets against Buffalo week 5, and then 8 targets week 2 against Baltimore. When Mahomes wants to go to him, he will. I think that's going to happen here in Tennessee. So over guys like Byron Pringle, who are completely speculative, I think McCole Hardman actually has the obvious upside with his speed. I think this is a great flex play for this week.
Lions at Rams.
Man, Goff has been really bad lately. I'm going with the Rams D on this one. Cooper Kupp seems obvious. Stafford seems obvious. I don't really like DeAndre Swift's chances either against this Rams defense right now. So I'm going to say Rams D. If you've got him and you've been streaming other people, or you're one of those leagues like we have where you usually carry 2 defenses, this is the time to play the Rams defense. Goff has been absolutely abysmal. The Lions look like they have no answer for anything. I like Dan Campbell, but he doesn't really seem to be doing much of a change over in Detroit, and Goff is coming back to play his old team in LA. I think this is going to be an embarrassment for him, and he's going to get absolutely destroyed. Start the Rams D this week.
Eagles at Raiders.
It's been kind of a disappointing and frustrating season for Josh Jacobs owners, but this is a good week to have him and start him with confidence. Last week, he did catch a reception for 29 yards. He had 53 yards on the ground and got the touchdown. Same thing with the week before. A lot of passing work, got the touchdown. Now, the disappointing part is he's really under 4 yards a carry right now, which is concerning. But against the Philadelphia Eagles defense, which has looked completely inept at times this year, I think this is a great time to have Josh Jacobs back in as your RB1 or 2 with confidence. If that's the guy you've got, roll with him.
Texans at Cardinals.
I will take the low-hanging fruit here. Kyler Murray. He's going to run rampant. The Texans are demoralized. Right now, they're still talking about Deshaun Watson being traded around, maybe to the Dolphins. I don't see it. I mean, we got this John McClain guy on Twitter who at the beginning of the year in January said that he would be a head coach before Deshaun Watson gets traded. And now all of a sudden, he's the one breaking the news that, guess what, Watson's going to be traded, the Dolphins going to happen this week. I'm still saying it's probably not happening, but the Texans obviously are flying around blind at the helm. They have no leader. Kyler Murray is going to go crazy on this defense. So if you have Kyler Murray, I think we can finally get that 40-point game again that we saw earlier in the season. This is going to be a Mahomes-like performance.
Bears at Buccaneers.
Chris Godwin is going to bounce back here. Currently on the season, he is ranked 24th amongst fantasy wide receivers. He had a huge first week. He had a pretty good second week, pretty good third week, an okay fifth week. He's been in a bit of a slump lately. Up against Chicago, he's probably going to torch him. Brady had a little issue with his thumb. I think he's going to be okay. Antonio Brown did not practice 2 days in a row. And Gronk, I think he's still questionable. Who knows if he's actually going to play or get hurt during that game or be limited. Godwin and Evans are going to share their targets, of course, but I think this is the one game where we see Godwin bounce back as a huge wide receiver, and I would start him with complete confidence.
Colts at 49ers.
This is an odd one, but I think Elijah Mitchell could actually match his Week 1 performance. I don't think Sermon is going to pan out the way a lot of people are hoping he would. Listen, that's what happens with a lot of these running backs. Some of the first-rounders that we take in rookie dynasties don't even pan out. I think he's going to match the Week 1 performance for touches, at least. The San Francisco QBs could be sidelined. Trey Lance I think they're ruling him out. Garoppolo is going to be iffy, and they're really trying to protect him before this game. On the other side of the ball, I know the Colts kind of on the hot streak from that last defensive performance, but let's be honest about who it was against. So the Colts probably going to have some trouble really deciding what kind of game plan they're going to run here. I think Elijah Mitchell, regardless of whether or not the 49ers actually win the game, I think you're going to see a massive amount of touches, probably a little bit of passing work, and you can expect a 15-point game from Elijah Mitchell. So if he's still out there on the waiver wires after everybody dropped him after the first few weeks, I'd go look at the waiver wire right now and see if you can pick him up.
Saints at Seahawks.
Marquez Callaway. Everybody was really pumped to start this guy at the beginning of the year, and then week 1 and week 2, he basically posts 2 back-to-back 2 to 3 point performances. Finally gets a touchdown week 3, comes back down to earth with only 2 targets in week 4, but they were for 74 yards. And then week 5 blows up, 8 targets, 4 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he was on a bye. So he's really kind of fallen under the radar in a lot of leagues. 44% rostered, even though he's basically the wide receiver 1 on the Saints. Michael Thomas, activated, I get it, but he's not coming back to play this week. Against Seattle's terrible defense, Marquez Callaway is going to be a boom play. And I almost wanted to take the Chiefs and Titans as my game of the week, but I'm really going to go with the Bengals and the Ravens. I think Burrow versus Lamar Jackson is going to be a little bit closer than people think. I think there's going to be a lot of defensive scheming to stop either quarterback. It's going to be a fun one. Everybody watch out for that game to be one of those kind of barn burners like we saw with the Bills and the Titans on Monday night last week. And that's going to do it for the Week 7 preview. Once again, this is your host Ryan of Fantasy R&R. I hope to see you next time with Rob.